We were looking at this question related to a numerical example of isolimity, where the central bank chooses the interest rate and then keeps it constant at the chosen level, and this is done through adjustments in the money supply. Right, we did the first part, we tried the isolation, we did the second part, and then we solved for equilibrium output and equilibrium values of C and I. And then we found the equilibrium values of the money supply. Now, in part E, we want to plot the IS and LM curves on a graph with I on y-axis and y on x-axis and indicate where the equilibrium is graphically. So let's do that. So in this part, we want to plot. So part A is plotting IS and LM curves in YI plane in a graph with y on x-axis. So let's start with the LM equation. We know our LM equation here is given as I is 5%. Because in here, in this ISLM model, we're assuming that instead of targeting money supply, the central bank chooses the interest rate and keeps it constant at the choosing level. In this case, the LM curve is horizontal. Instead of an upward sloping, we get a horizontal LM curve. And the central bank fixes the interest rate as a horizontal line at the level of interest rate chosen by the central bank. Interest rate chosen by the central bank in YI. Because remember, the way we plot it is that on the vertical axis we have R, horizontal axis we have R. In this case, the central bank just chooses the interest rate 5% and then adjusts money supply like we need to make sure this interest rate is consistent with the equilibrium in the financial market. So in this case, regardless of whatever the output level is, the central bank is fixed interest rate at 5%. So the LM curve is a horizontal line at I is 5%, right? And this is because I is on the vertical axis, right? And you're fixing the value 5, which is on the vertical axis. So at that level of I, the LM curve is a horizontal line. So this is LM curve, right? Now let's look at IS. Now the equation of IS we write in part A is I is 0.55 minus 0.345. Now from here we can see there's a negative relationship between interest rate and output. So we know our IS curve is downward sloping. Right, and you know the reason behind this also, like the economic intuition behind this. But here, just from the equation, we can see when you want to plot the IS curve, so we can see there's a negative relationship between I and Y, it's downward sloping. And we know the economic intuition behind this downward sloping relationship. And in this case, I is a linear function of Y. So its graph will be a straight line. So it's downward sloping. So its graph will be a straight line. So we would draw it as a curve. It will be a straight line. So because in this case I is a linear function of y, its graph will be a straight line. It's already yeah. So its graph will be a straight line in y. So now let's plot this. Now let's put this all information together and plot our isolated curves. Okay, so this and we have this. Right, so this is this. So if we look at this on the vertical axis, we have y, on horizontal axis, we have y. We have a horizontal LM curve, which is horizontal at the level of interest rate chosen by the central bank, and we have a downward sloping IS curve, which in this case is a straight line because of the linear relationship between I and y, implied by the IS relation. Right, so if we just make it like this, so we can see this is the IS, which is I is 0.55 minus 0.5y. This is our LM, I is 5%. Right, so it's a horizontal line at the level of interest rate chosen by the central bank, 5%. And you know, equilibrium occurs where IS is equal to LM, right? Equilibrium is where IS is equal to LM. And this gives us the equilibrium level of output y star is 1000 that we found in an earlier part. And the equilibrium interest rate I star is 5%, which, like we said, is given by the horizontal LM curve. So this way we can plot our IS in LM graphs. Now, instead of an upward sloping LM curve, we can see we have a horizontal LM curve, because here we're not assuming that the central bank fixes the money supply, we're assuming the central bank fixes the interest rate.